over capacity or at capacity with people on a waiting list. We've been doing regular did you know posts on Facebook, and of course we'll continue those just to get the word out and let people hear what's going on with their department. And so I think those have been very well received. We're going to continue to do those. That's all I have unless anybody has any questions.
JJ.
Can you help me understand the difference between sworn officer count and police officer count in the department?
That should be the same. Well, okay, I understand maybe where the discrepancy comes in. I am a sworn officer. I'm not counted in the police officer category. So we have 1 chief, 2 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, and 9 police officers allotted to us. They're all sworn.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Good question. So one of the things that I've always wondered, and I've talked to various police chiefs over the years, is what is you ever talk about police auxiliary, basically volunteers?
Mm-hmm.
I know that exists in some places.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've been told it's more trouble than it's worth. Is that still your opinion?
First of all, I have to plead ignorance on how much trouble it really is. I've never been involved with that. And I can tell you, if I had people beating down my door saying, can I please come be an auxiliary officer and ride along, we would find a way to make it work. I do know that Lieutenant Ashe was involved, at least to a degree, in the auxiliary program in Wasilla, so he does have some experience there. But I don't have people beating down my door wanting to be involved in that, so I haven't focused any efforts on it.
Yeah, it might be a chicken and egg thing, but I always think of the fire hall. Whenever we need a new engineer, we've got a corps of people waiting there for one of those jobs. And so, same idea. I was thinking that might kill 2 birds, but I've always liked the idea.
I'm certainly not against it. It's just, it would take some effort to stand up, and we're in that perpetual, we want to do more, but I need more people to do more. And then once I have more people, then we don't have to worry about doing more because we have enough people.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Department report, Amy Ainsley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Assembly members. Amy Ainsley, Planning and Community Development Director. I wanted to take this opportunity to share 2 important tourism-related updates with you. So the first is the end of season survey. So as you may be aware, we currently have the 2025 end of season tourism survey that is open to the public. So this is an opportunity for the community to tell us how the 2025 visitor season went, how they were impacted, areas of improvement for the city, whether we should keep Lincoln Street open next year. And so that survey is going to be open through October 26th. It is available online at cityofsitka.com/tourism commission. And it's also available in paper copies at the library. We plan to present the results from the survey at the Tourism Commission's regular meeting in November, so that's November 13th. And this is really valuable feedback that will help guide the Commission in making recommendations about city operations, the Tourism Best Management Practices program for the 2026 season. So if you are hearing folks who have feedback about the season, please send them to the survey. Really happy to see you this afternoon that we already had about 125 respondents, and hoping that continues to pick up over the course of about the next 2 weeks. The second update is on the Visit Sitka request for qualifications. So we have issued that request for qualifications and is now open for folks to view and to respond to. I wanted to highlight a couple of really key changes from when we previously issued a request for proposals for RFP for Visit Sitka services versus what's in this RFQ. And there's 2 really important differences that I want to draw some attention to. So the first is that as opposed to the RFP where it was kind of an all or none, it was all of the Visit Sitka services or none, the RFQ is structured so that if any entity is interested in any one of the services, you are more than welcome and encouraged to apply. So if there's something like, just doing marketing or running the Visitor Information Center or administering the TBMP program, if any of those are of interest to folks, just one, we're encouraging you to apply. It's not an all or one kind of approach. The second thing is on the term. We got some feedback during the Tourism Commission review of, of this effort about how this contract would operate and wanting to provide some flexibility for people to give us their feedback about how this contract should be structured. So instead of having more rigid contract terms as a part of this RFQ, it's much more open so that folks can tell us, how would you do this? How would you do this on your terms? What would work for you? So we're hoping that these two changes help folks feel that the RFQ is maybe a little bit more approachable and can be shaped in a way that will work for their organization or for those who are interested in kind of taking up a new service. So this can be found on the city's bids and RFP page of our website, and the deadline for application or for responses to the RFQ is Thursday, November 13th at 3 p.m. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Any questions for her while we have her? Thank you very much. Okay, moving along, we are now at persons to be heard. Persons to be heard for public participation for any item off the agenda not to exceed 3 minutes per individual. Is there any public comment for items off the agenda? If you could turn your microphone on, sorry to mess with you there.
Sorry. Magandang gabi. Good evening, esteemed members of the Sitka City Assembly and all our fellow Sitkans, both those present and those joining in online. My name is Danielle Nilo, and I am honored to speak as the president of the Filipino Culture Club at Sitka High School, Barkadas. Barkadas is a Tagalog word meaning group of friends, and that's exactly what we are. A welcoming community of Filipinos and allies who come together to celebrate and share Filipino heritage and traditions. I am here tonight to invite you and the entire Sitka community to our upcoming Salo Salo celebration in honor of Filipino American History Month. This year's event will take place on Saturday, October 25th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Blatchley Middle School in the Commons and multi-purpose room. The Salo Salo will feature delicious Filipino food, cultural performances, and opportunities to learn more about the vibrant Filipino-American community here in Sitka. We'll also be hosting a fundraising auction, and we welcome donations of desserts or other items from the public. Proceeds will support future Barkadas activities and our main service initiative, the Tulong Aral Filipino Scholarship, which helps Filipino graduates of the Sitka School District to pursue post-secondary education. This celebration is more than just an event. It's a chance to come together, share stories, and build connections across cultures and generations. We hope you'll join us and help us spread the word so we can make this gathering meaningful for all. Maraming salamat. Thank you for your time and support. We look forward to seeing you at the Salo Salo on Saturday, October 25th from 2 to 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Persons to be heard.
Good evening, and my name is Pierce Kohler Kenuelainen, and I am here as a student athlete and a concerned citizen to talk about three major concerns about the Kimsham baseball and softball fields. In the past few years, the softball organization have had multiple injuries during our season that have cost some players their seasons. One incident I would like to bring up tonight is during our annual mud ball tournament, we had a player on the upper Kimsham field slide into second base, and while sliding, she slid into some dog poop. I bring this up because I am looking for all these fields to be locked up properly so animals are forced to go and use other areas around town so dogs can play, dig holes, and do their business even when there are activities going on for the community. Another reason why I bring up these fields tonight is because we had a player severely injured and severely injure their ankle due to their field's poor conditions and the bases being put in incorrectly. I would like to see these bases be put in properly into the ground, such as Moeller Park, rather than them being held together by magnets. These bases are more stable while being grounded into the dirt, otherwise these types of injuries will keep happening throughout the years. Lastly, I'm going to bring up the conditions of each outfield. On the men's lower field, the outfield is 85 to 90% moss, not grass. There are gravel patches and potholes. On the women's field, the grass gets so wet during the rainy games and gets unsafe due to the overgrown grass plus the rain. This makes the outfield very slick and dangerous for people playing on. On the upper co-ed field, there are so many piles of dog poop scattered all over the field. Who wants to slide into dog poop? In conclusion, I would like to see some changes to these fields and make it better and safer for our community events year-round. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Persons to be heard? Seeing none, moving on. We are now at the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of item A, approve the minutes of the September 23rd Assembly meeting.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda consisting of
Mr. Mosher.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item C.
All right, we're on item D. We're going to recognize the outgoing assembly member. Chris, if you'll join me here in the front. Unlikely. I will admit that I was part of a musical once. It's not on YouTube. Sorry. Mr. Yustad, we have a certificate for you. It does not do anything close to cover all of the work that you have done and all of the presence you've brought to our table and all the information that you've been able to glean for us and bring forward and everything that you've done in service to our community. And, I doubt that you're done serving our community. So I think that's been fantastic. And I have personally enjoyed having you on the assembly, and I know all of us have benefited greatly from your experience.
Right, I'm not done with my public service. I think I'm just gonna step back a little bit and do something that's maybe a little less time consuming. But I do really want to give thanks to staff. You are all very great to work with, and I just want to say that you're wonderful. You're very professional. You know, I really appreciate everything that you do for us up here, because I know it's a lot. Sometimes I always feel like I need to feel sorry for being kind of a pain, but I know that you do it happily for us, and that you serve the community well, and I really do want the community to realize that, how great you all are. So thank you, and at that I am signing off.
Yeah, you get to take your nameplate with you. And we'll take a brief recess so everyone can enjoy some cupcakes.
Unfortunately, hangars are built, there is going to have to be a access road that the state is requiring to be put in by Petrie that is going to come out from Old Airport Road to the airport road. People are going to walk in front of Coast Guard housing, then they'll have to cross the street again to get over to where Avis is currently staging their vehicles. The sidewalk situation is very much wanting. Unfortunately, just the maze people would have to travel is going to be pretty difficult. So my direction provided by the administrator has been not to put an application for that additional 7-day lot. In addition, it's important to consider that the airport master plan intends on extending the taxiway down once the lagoon is filled in to continue down to the end of the runway, which would eliminate that second 7-day parking as well as quite a bit of that forest. The archaeological exploration there is ongoing. They're working through the planning and design phase there. But a long story short, that second 7-day parking lot is supposed to be going away as we do the infrastructure improvements to extend to the taxiway.
Okay. Too late on making a long story short. Just a couple kind of comments. I remember when we were doing the lease, I suggested that we get the parking lot then because the state was like, yeah, we'll give it to you. And I got shot down, so sorry, indulge a little bit there. But it strikes me that we don't have a choice, and that by taking the lease, and is the comment period done yet? So there's no, if we put in for the lease, we don't have to worry about a competing bid at this juncture.
We closed, the public comment period was closed on the 15th of last month, and no comments were received.
So we could put in a request, and we don't have to worry about a competing bid.
I'm still in a holding pattern.
Okay.
Legal with the state is still processing the application. When I hear back from them, I'll definitely let you know.
But I think the control, I mean, I'm sure we'll have many discussions over exactly how we're going to do it and how we're going to enforce it and what we're going to charge. I think we probably would have some sort of a grace period for people dropping people off, and I would, prefer personally a daily rate or something like that, and I'm sure we'll argue over those details. I mean, I would argue that we don't need 7-day parking. We just charge you for wherever you're parking over that time, and that way we don't have to worry about running out of 7-day parking. But that's for discussion for a later day. Right now, we're deciding whether or not to do it, and I think we have to. I don't think we have any choice. And regardless, and if we don't do it, like I said, the state has said they're going to do it. So if we don't do it, and then we can control it and allow vouchers for the nugget or something, or make it an hour grace period or something to allow for the nugget, state won't do that. State won't make any allowances for local car rental companies or the nugget, or trying to make it easy for people to drop people on and off. So we need that control. So that's, I think, not going to be the first time we're talking about this. Parking issues and pets. These are going to be lots of things we talk about a lot. And so at least we'd have control.
Any more questions for these two, or can we let them go? Ms. Carlson.
Thank you. What's the timeline on implementation of that master plan to expand that taxiway? Is that within the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
The master plan is over 25 years, and I would suggest planning for longer rather than sooner.
So we may still have that extra lot of parking for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I would say that the route from that second 7-day lot is going to be a lot more difficult pretty soon over the next few years, but we should have access to that for quite a while longer.
So, I'm lining up multiple things here. If this Petrie group is making a hangar, then the state is actively putting in that access road now. Is that correct? Okay. So, Sitka, you will continue to have the current number of stalls for parking, both short-term and long-term, for at least 5 years, if not longer. It would only be that taxiway expansion that would limit that second lot. So only talking about parcel P, so if you're following along tonight, that's on page 8. It's the red outline on the bottom of the page. It's just currently what we have right in front of the building. We're not talking about that dirt lands or back 40, if we were Midwesterners, what we would call that. So it's just about how many stalls are currently outlined in parcel P, so I can get an overall idea here.
So it varies whether or not you're going to include the shuttle parking over in that dirt lot, but roughly you got about 140, 150 short-term, and then you got about 70 in that 7-day long-term parking close to the airport.
Okay.
Katie, Ms. Riley had a question, I think.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to see what the extent of the details that you have to include in your bid to the state are. Is it just this proposal for this lease for the $24,000, or do you have to say, we're going to do all the things in option 1 or these things in option 2? What is the level of detail that you're looking for us from tonight?
Oh, and what we would include in the bid.
Well, I'm just wondering what what you have to include and what can be discussed later.
So the state requires you to include all the infrastructure improvements you're going to be implementing in your bid, your staffing levels, your rate and fee structure. All of those should be included in the bid that you're submitting to the state, and that is what they're going to evaluate to compare it to the competing bid. So they're going to go with the individual who says, okay, we're going to put $500,000 of infrastructure into the airport land, and then we're going to staff 10 people, or and then we're going to have these fee structures. Like, they are looking for a strong business model and the higher level of infrastructure improvements. That is not what we are seeking input on. Our bid is going to be dependent on whether or not there is a competing bid that expressed interest in that public comment period. If Sharon lets us know, yes, there was a competing bid, then we would most likely go with option 2 to show that we are more committed to doing a serious infrastructure improvement, so we get the lots, so that we are successful in our bid.
Okay, so infrastructure improvements, staffing, rate and fee structure. What was the one other thing you were looking for? Or,
I think that was it.
Okay.
If it's okay with the assembly, I think the Public Works Director, Mark Seavey, might be able to help answer some of this to make it a little bit easier to understand. There's a lot happening there.
And if I can take a second to clarify something, we're talking about whether we want to set this bid up. We're not talking about the details of this bid. That bid will come back to us before it goes anywhere else. It's not going to be like we're saying, go ahead and do this, and we're out of the loop. The public will have plenty of opportunity to look at the bid and decide whether it's appropriate. So I think it's important for us to, we can do all this, and I'm not opposed, it's interesting information, and I want to be part of this, but I think we need to keep in mind that we're just setting in, what they're asking us to do is set in motion this bid process, and that bid will come back to us, and that bid will be all laid out. It's not just straightforwardly. I'm not wrong, right, Rachel? Like, it's coming back to us before we're done.
I believe that's correct, but I think Joseph would answer about the state process better, or Mark can answer about the state process better.
That's fine.
Yeah, so we've expressed interest in leasing that Lot P, and only Lot P. So we can't really speak for DOT, as they will still control the further lot down the road, and it's available right now, but we won't have any authority over what they may decide to do with that lot in the future. So with the increase in ramp space down there, general aviation hangars, there is the potential for that to no longer be airport terminal parking. That will serve a general aviation population, and that will be potentially policed by the DOT. So I just want to alleviate any thoughts that we might still have that, because we won't have control over that. Right now, since we have expressed interest in the lot, that opened the public comment period. That has closed. Our understanding is we don't have any other comments right now. As the state finalizes that process and our application, we should find out if we are bidding against anyone or if our proposal will be the only proposal going forward. At that point, once we know definitively if we are going to be leasing the lot, we'll need to come forward with a proposal for what we intend to do to improve the lot, improvements to infrastructure, security, training, staffing, all those things will come into play.
And you'll come back to this body to discuss, like.
Yeah, so we'll have to come back
yeah.
and discuss rate structures, fees, if we want to do vouchers for the Nugget. Would
it be helpful for us tonight to give some direction over like where we would hope to see you set up that kind of things? Like, would it be helpful if we said, this is what we'd like to prioritize in the event that you do come back to us with a bid, so that you don't have to hear it again? Because we've already like discussed some things tonight, right?
Yeah, I think we have a good tally of what's been interested so far. If there's anything that's not mentioned that the Assembly is interested, I'd like to hear that, but I think we have a common theme. And again, the city is not looking at this as a way to generate additional revenue. This is a way to keep the airport as a solid enterprise fund. So in the future, we have additional, potential capital expenses listed in there, as buildings will require maintenance. So in the future, but having control over the lot and being able to control these rates allows the city to adjust those up and down. So if we're not needing extra revenue for the airport fund, we can bring those rates down or restructure them. If we need additional revenue for the airport fund, we can adjust those. There's so many options with, Joseph brought up the cameras, but I envision a lot that doesn't have potentially long-term and short-term. If we can track cameras sufficiently, that's well lit, everything is just long or short. The only caveat to that, I would say, we all know we live in a rainy climate. Maybe we want to make sure that if you're staying for 21 days, don't park right next to the front. But again, there's just so much in the future that I think right now we're really just looking at, does the Assembly agree that paid parking is a good revenue generator for the airport? And would you like us to pursue leasing this Lot P?
We'll need to make a motion. Any other questions for anyone?
I don't have any more questions, but I'd love to say some things about thoughts. But I really appreciate your patience. I don't know if there's, I assume as I learn things, there will be more opportunities to ask questions beforehand, but thanks for your patience tonight. And is now an appropriate time to say some thoughts, or?
I think, if we make a motion, we get another chance to say a
discuss
whole
it.
bunch of
Okay.
stuff.
I move to authorize the municipal administrator to submit a bid to the state of Alaska to lease parcel P at the Sitka Airport Terminal for the purpose of implementing paid parking.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the administrator to submit a bid to be brought back to the Assembly for approval, obviously, to the state of Alaska for parcel P. Is there public comment on whether we should bid on this parcel? Seeing none? Assembly deliberation?
Yeah, thank you. I think that our airport is really critical. It's not like a nice to have where people are just, flying in and out. Obviously, there's plenty of people who use that for recreational use, but it's also one of the only ways on and off the island. So I'm very interested in keeping the revenue that is generated by this as low as possible, just to meet the enterprise fund needs, and adjusting that in the event that there ever is an excess to reduce the burden on citizens. I think that, I'm not interested in creating more things generally that are going to increase the cost of living. So that is my priorities in terms of this. Option 2, I think there's some things in here that are a little excessive. Paving, shuttle, parking. I understand now a little bit more of like the dynamic between the state wanting to see infrastructure improvements and then prioritizing a bid that shows that. But I do not think that that is very important, and I would like to, I think that's a really significant cost that could be cut. So just keeping the infrastructure improvements kind of as low as possible to, meet the needs of the bid and keep things as cheap as possible. We definitely, need to figure out what to do about the nugget and local small businesses, but also, to your comment, JJ, on the fish box tax, we are building a room to facilitate the removal of our natural resources from our community, and I understand that that is a important economic driver here, but it is also something that impacts a lot of Sitkans in their own quest for food security. And so in as much as those charter operators and clients are using this facility and having an increased impact on like the carts and the carpet or whatnot, I would like to see that adequately budgeted for. I don't want the the burden to fall on Sitkans for this enterprise fund when arguably there's other folks that are having an outsized impact on that facility. Those are some of my thoughts.
Mr. Christensen.
Yeah, so I think at this point, I think I've heard a lot of support for a grace period of some sort. Trying to figure out a way to not make it hard to go to the Nugget, trying to figure out a way to take care of our local rental-car places. I think you heard that. One thing about the fish box tax you understand is that that was an initiative process, and that right now by ordinance has to go to fisheries enhancement. So we could possibly change that, but I think a better way of capturing that is the permits for the charter operators. See, how can I say this? I think we would have to be really careful with the fish boxes, keeping it tax legal. There's some issues with that. I won't talk too much about, but I think the permits for the charter operators is on a much stronger foundation. So, but that's not really what we're talking about tonight. But anyway, I think we've said what most of us would like to see. And like I said, I don't think we have a whole lot of choice here if we want any control.
Ms. Carlson.
So it looks like we're not putting a number to what we authorize the administrator to do. Is that correct? A number is not needed, nor is terms or anything like that? Okay. What I see listed here is a 10-year period. And if we're putting in all this infrastructure to potentially sweeten our bid and we only get to keep this land for 10 years, that's a problem. I recall explicitly from the man who was here representing the state and the lease for the land under the terminal that the state does not do anything less than 50 years. That's what he said, because our previous lease with them was 35, and we were very interested in just doing another 35-year lease. And he was adamant that it needed to be 55, not 50, 55. And now I see a 10-year lease from seemingly the same body, unless this is a different group, but I believe it to be the same aeronautical group. And I got a nod from Joseph on that. So I'm just very curious into why a 10-year term is something that's written here. So I would encourage whoever gets to negotiate this, that gets looked at, and maybe a 55-year term becomes part of our agreement. To my recollection, we're paying about $16,000, $17,000 for the land under the terminal. This looks to be a little more than that. So hopefully that is based off of a formula, and it all pencils out well. But it seems a little silly that we're going to be potentially paying more for parking to the state than we would be for the land under our terminal, even though that is how the square footages work. So I know staff members will look at all of that and come up with a very appropriate bid for what we submit to the state when we do that.
Mr. Mosier.
Thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of good comments all around. I think that people made some really good points. I just want to reemphasize, because the public who's listening, that if we don't do this and the state finds someone else to do it, we don't get to keep any of that money. So we're going to be paying for parking no matter what. So why not be involved, be able to control the rate structure, and then get to keep some of it. And yeah, this is not to make money for the general fund and special things. This is so that we can pay for the hospital, the airport. Totally different thing. One thing on my concern to keep in mind for staff is that I wouldn't mind remembering to, when you get to the details, to look into the possibility of having some sort of like half-hour grace period where people could, just drop off or park to drop off or park to pick up and not have to pay. That seems just crazy to have to pay for that. And I think we would get a lot of pushback from the public if we don't. So those are just my thoughts. I'm in favor of this.
Well, I don't know if you've been in the airport, but it's, probably the best airport, or will be shortly the best airport on the West Coast, if not anywhere. I mean, it's brand new, right? So, and with brand new comes extra costs. And while I am in no way in favor of paid parking, considering that Sitkans are used to not doing that, and I agree with Katie. I mean, I think we want to keep our costs to our community down to the minimum, not the maximum. And we're not trying to make any money here. And I know the staff has heard I'm sure has heard many of the caveats. I would encourage them to make sure to put some time into for the public to have a lot of say into this, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of the same sort of things you're hearing here tonight and some other ones. So if you're looking for good ideas, I think the whole crowdsourcing idea for this one might not be a bad plan. And the longer we talk about it, I think the more people will come to understand maybe why we're doing this, and also, it takes time. I mean, first time I heard this, I was like, I'm not going to do that. This is ridiculous. But the more you think about it and you listen to it and you work on it with it, you realize that it's, the last thing we want to do is have the taxpayers as a whole end up paying for the airport when some of those people are not benefiting from it to the same level. So as much as possible, we want to make sure that the enterprise funds are paid for by the people who use them the most. And so in this case, paid parking is coming, whether we like it or not. I'm familiar with another community that had a similar kind of scenario where a parking lot was taken over by a company out of Colorado that takes over parking lots all over the place and might very well bid on this one if we're not careful. If people were getting charged $200 and couldn't call anybody. So, I think it's important for us to keep this local so that we can make sure that we protect the things that are important to us. The Nugget is a local institution. The person in Colorado has no idea what a nugget is other than something to do with gold maybe. So I think this is important, whether we like it or not. And I do remember the conversation from the beginning where the state was pretty clear that we were going to have paid parking whether we liked it or not. So, and from their perspective, they also don't want to get handed an airport that's in arrears, right? So if we suddenly can't handle it and we hand it back to them, they're going to be stuck with figuring out how to pay for it. And I think that was their main driver. And he made that pretty clear, even though he deflected on everything else. So here we are. Sarah, roll call, please.
All right, the motion before you is to authorize the municipal administrator to submit a bid to the state of Alaska to lease parcel P at the Sitka Airport Terminal for the purpose of implementing paid parking. Mr. Pike?
Yes.
Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
And Ms. Riley?
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item K.
has been more than an hour. We will take a break. Please be seated when you're ready. All righty, folks. Let's see if we can try something else with the state. Hey, good for you. All right, I think we're all seated back together. Josh will join us in a moment. We are now on item I.
I move to approve the Cooperative Resource Management Agreement between the City and Borough of Sitka and the State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources for recreational areas at Baranof Warm Springs.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a Cooperative Resource Management Agreement between the City and Borough of Sitka and the State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources for the recreational areas in Baranof Warm Springs. Amy has a introduction before public comment. Thank you.
Thank you all again. Amy Ainsley, Planning and Community Development Director. So recreational areas at Baranof Warm Springs, for a little bit of background, are a joint jurisdiction area. So the city owns the dock, the boardwalks that are in the rights of way, and the public bathhouse. Once we extend past the rights of way, there is the Baranof Lake Trail, which goes up to the lake. There's also what's commonly referred to as the grotto, which are those hot springs pools that are kind of off the trail and near the falls. And DNR also owns the tidelands that our dock is located on. So under state regulations, the Baranof Lake Trail has a special use designation that requires more stringent requirements for commercial recreational land use. Because operators and their guests have to cross municipal property in order to access that trail, that means that right now operators need a permit from both the city as well as DNR to engage in those activities. So this Cooperative Resource Management Agreement, or CRMA, would allow for the state's special use designation for the trail to essentially be managed through the city's process. So the city's process for commercial recreational land use permitting would essentially replace that state process. That would reduce the time and expense for operators that are seeking to use the area. So while this is going to be a topic of a future assembly conversation, we are working on the commercial recreational land use plan, and that does have some fee increases slated for Baranof Warm Springs. Which right now in draft is a $400 annual fee with a $10 client fee, which is up from our current $2 client fee. The state's fee is a $400 application fee, a $1,200 annual fee, and then a $4 cost per client. So by eliminating the state's fee, that helps to offset any potential, maybe not wholly, it depends on the operator and their volumes, but that does help to offset the cost for operators using the area, and then directs those funds to the municipality rather than to the state, which therefore has more local control and therefore can be used to improve the area and more directly benefit that area. This would also help to reduce the staff work associated with that interagency coordination. So when we get these permits, we have to verify that both entities are permitting them, that we have consistent applications between the two. That would simplify that process for staff as well. So this agreement also has another function, and this is really more of kind of an administrative cleanup kind of function, and it's about the dock that's in the tidelands. So the dock at Baranof Warm Springs used to be owned by the state, by DOT, and so there was an interagency agreement for the dock to be in the tidelands. The dock was transferred to the city in 2017, but that authorization was not transferred with it. And so this is a mechanism that will allow us to have the dock on the tidelands and kind of clean that up and not have to go through a more lengthy or complex process like leasing or conveying land. Additionally, this agreement would empower but not require CBS to undertake improvements to the trail. So if we wanted to pursue that as a project, or if another group like the Property Owners Association there or Trailworks wanted to do that, they could work more closely with us as opposed to going through a lengthier state process to seek approval for trail improvements. Quick note on what this agreement does not do, because I think that's also really important. It does not convey any ownership of lands. It does not obligate any funds or future monetary payments from the municipality to the state. And it does not transfer ownership or management of water rights and water lines. That is very complicated, and my recommendation is that we don't get into that business and leave that with the state. Just in terms of public outreach on this, we did send the draft agreement to our key contacts with the Baranoff Property Owners Association on September 30th. We also sent it to all current commercial recreational land use permit holders and others who have signed up for notifications about our commercial recreational land use plan on the 1st of this month. So folks have had about a couple of weeks to take a look, and we advise them of opportunities to provide comment either at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, which happened earlier today, or tonight at the Assembly meeting. And at the Parks and Rec Committee meeting earlier today, it was unanimously recommended for approval.
Thank you. Be surprised if we don't have you back after public comment. Is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, assembly deliberation. Mr. Mosier.
I was at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting or committee meeting today when they discussed that, and it was, unanimously approved. I found out because I had to leave a little early. I think this is a win-win. There's not going to be very many downsides to this particular thing. I think when we come to the land use management plan, that'll be a whole different story because we'll have a lot of comments from the public and different things. But this is just a simplification of a process.
Ms. Carlson.
I'd like to thank Planning and Community Development Director and then Parks and Rec subdivision, but now maybe your own division director, depending on how this reorg kind of gets implemented and when. Thank you for working through our state partners to figure this one out. I don't see the downsides. I think the more cooperative agreements we can get out there, when we do have shared interest in places and shared agreements overlapping land or use of land, this is a great way to go about it. So thank you for that work with DNR. Thank you for simplifying the permitting process, potentially moving forward with the recreational land use for our guides. They become guides to be out there in the environment and sharing Sitka and stewardship principles with people, not to be doing paperwork through the winter months. So thank you for helping them in their paperwork demands and their fees. I do think that we do give $16,000 to the Cherokee agreement to that group. From what I was seeing with the conditional land use plan, we will definitely cover that with the $10 per visitor, which we haven't approved yet, but that's coming. So I have only thanks to offer those that made this happen.
Sarah, roll call, please.
All right, the motion before you is to approve the agreement between the city and the state for recreational areas at Baranoff Warm Springs. Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
Mr. Pike?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
Yes.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item L.
Item M. Discussion, direction, decision on rescheduling the November 11th regular assembly meeting, December 9th and 23rd assembly meetings. Sarah, would you please give us an overview?
And I'm proposing that we reschedule that to Monday, November 10th. Does that work for folks? Okay. And then my second request is to look at December. Our two meetings are scheduled for the 9th and the 23rd. Assembly members and many staff will be at the Alaska Municipal League Conference and the affiliate conferences. So on December 9th that week. So I'm proposing to reschedule our first meeting in December to the 16th. And then instead of having the next meeting 7 days later, moving that an additional week out. So the two meetings in December would be the 16th and the 30th.
I was maybe going to be gone on a vacation during that period. I was scheduled, was looking at between the first budget cycle, just for that meeting on the 30th. So I was wondering if anyone else has holiday travel plans, or if I'm the only one. I'm happy to call in.
I don't go anywhere, so I'll be here.
Fine with me.
Okay. All right. So the meetings in November will be the 10th and the 25th, and then December will be the 16th and the 30th. So, thank you.
So my question is, who's playing Monday night?
I'm the wrong person to ask for that one.
If it's the Vikings or the Seahawks, I might not be here.
All right, Sarah, do you have what you need? Thank you. All right, and you're always good about updating our calendars, so thank you. All right, moving along, we are at persons to be heard for public participation on any item on or off the agenda, not to exceed 3 minutes per individual. Is there any public comment? If so, please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. The name is Austin Cranford. I just had I had one topic. Now I have two topics. The first topic was during the assembly race, one of the candidates mentioned that there had been discussions about shore power for cruise ships, and that was the first time, to my knowledge, that it had ever been confirmed that shore power was being looked into by the city. I would like the city to release more information on what discussions have been had and what the progress is in that, because I know that's something that's been talked about by the community for a couple years. Issues by doing that. So some context, I was signal cybersecurity in the military. I do IT for the university. I hold a plethora of cybersecurity certifications. Automated license plate readers come with attack surface risk. They come with data compliance risk. They come with privacy risk, civil liberties risk as well. Feel free to look at the ACLU and any number of organizations about why they're a problem. I would be very concerned if the city went that way. They also have a high failure rate, specifically in rainy and foggy terrain like we do. Longer. Access, misconfiguration, anything like that, and somebody can get into the system. It basically allows somebody to track citizens. I would encourage the city to look at just the regular arms and tickets, because there's no way to track that, at least how they're supposed to be set up. You go up, you get a ticket. When you're ready to leave, you put the ticket back in and you pay. With cameras, they know exactly when you entered, they know exactly when you left, and they can be like, okay, this person is out of town every year from this date to this date. Or, oh, they left town this date to this date, and that just happens to be the same date that this conference is held. Whatever. Thank you.
My name is Scott Celine. Friday night, felony vehicle assault on a power pole at 424 Catlean Street. The reason I'm mentioning this is prior to the enterprise fund being established, the village was due mission lines and 500 grand a year for inventory like transformers. So just before the enterprise fund came into effect, the city went to tribal government to ask if the transmission line could be buried across 32 foot of box house restricted deed, and tribal staff refused to have that happen. Fund.
Is the worst form of government that there is, except for every other form that has been tried from time to time. And I think when it comes to the idea of keeping the airport in the black and keeping the inevitable paid parking under local control, I think the idea of Sitka taking over
going to be coming.
I attended the planning commission back when I was on it just earlier this month. I think you stepped out for the part on the restaurant and eating place licenses, but we had a pretty robust discussion on it. And I'm sure a good summary of that will be coming to this body. But we moved to recommend that the assembly proceed with those 3 licenses. And I did throw in a small item there that I'm sure will go in front of our attorney, if it hasn't already, about if there is more licenses applied for than are to be granted with that increase, for a preference for those licenses to go to year-round local established businesses, to just kind of ensure that what we're doing is going to benefit the institutions in our community that are just trying to make ends meet and make it work. So that being said, but did hear some concerns from the Sitka Counseling and Prevention just about the prevalence of alcohol in our community, which we take really seriously, and need to consider what we can do about that and how we can encourage healthy activities, but really happy to have our Parks and Rec department be putting a lot of those on. So thanks to you guys for that.
Katie, did you figure out any addressing equity for people that have bought one for 50 grand, other people that bought one for 30? Has that been addressed before it comes here?
We heard concerns. I think that one of the issues with equity is that people are not aware of all of the different licenses that are currently available. So there are like 8 different licenses, and it's not a liquor license that's being applied for, which is valued much differently than a beer and wine license. So I understand the concerns about equity, and like part of the problem is we don't have good numbers about what these licenses go for, what they're being sold for. I also am under the impression that the system that was created, where we have a cap and you have to purchase them from someone else, is a system that was created maybe not that long ago. Like before, all you had to do was petition people within a mile or something, and get enough signatures to be able to receive a license. So I wanted to call AMCO before the 28th, do a little bit more research to figure out when the current cap system was created, because from my understanding, you know, I very much understand that current businesses have had to make that investment, but that was like an artificial cap that was created due to previous rules changing. And so I just need some more information about when all those changes were made. I understand the desire that was voiced for like continuity and regulations. I think that's really fair, but my consideration, like I think our consideration on the Planning Commission was really focused on like, does our community meet or have the conditions that would allow or call for this increase, rather than like, you know, we're not trying to like regulate business so much. That's the job of the free market, in my opinion. So I wanted to, look at when that cap was created, and get some more information on when that value was put on the permits, because I'm not sure that it always existed like that.
If I can amplify that a little bit, there's also, like Katie said, a lot of confusion as to what kind of licenses we're talking about. And there really is not, I think 50,000 is probably high.
Hang
for
on,
this type.
folks. I think we're straying off of the report
No,
section.
but I was just saying, I was trying to say that at that same meeting, that there's a lot of disagreement over what they're really worth.
Thank you. I think that summed it up.
As liaison to Health Needs and Human Services, we have a meeting tomorrow, noon, October 15th in this room. If anyone would like the opportunity to talk about that topic again, looking at it from the health perspective, as you know, alcohol is pervasive in our state, in our town, and it's a discussion direction item, so it's not readily open to public comment, but the chair may open if anyone wants to talk on the increase of RELs in Sitka.
And it came up during the meeting already. Police and Fire is holding a public, it's not really hearing, it's an item on their agenda about the body cameras, so anyone who's in interest would be well advised to attend. So it's coming up on the next one, and as it did on the last one. And they were very delighted that we agreed to authorize a couple more cars for them. So biking in the winter, not so good. Okay, any other liaison reports? Well, it's your turn, Tor. We're at adjournment.
Oh, no, I have a report.
Sorry.
I'll be short. Our next meeting is October 28th. The government dinner meeting is November 13th here at Harrigan at 6 p.m. I'll just go over our long list of board commission vacancies. Planning Commission, Historic Preservation, Investment Committee, Library Commission, Police and Fire, Sustainability, and Tree and Landscape. So there's lots of opportunity for folks. And then I just wanted to end by giving a shout out again to my team in the clerk's office for their job well done with the election, and then our election workers as well. So that's it.
Sorry.
Now can I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.